Oh, yeah, Suki. Here we are live once again. Suki and Scott show number 270 something. And Suki, if I could just say one thing to you to start off this particular show today,
Go ahead.
because I know you're very excited, but let me just say something to you, because there's something that I'd like to say.
All right, listen. We are so super excited because
But
our show gets big
words
guests. Like huge.
sometimes get in the way. You just keep
It
going,
gets
Suk. I'm the
a little
soundtrack.
bigger than our next guest. I am so excited. We're talking about the king of R&B, definitely for sure. We're
Freddie
talking about
Action
Mr.
Jackson. Freddie Jackson, R&B legend, coming up in just a second. And Suk, you want to know how eclectic this show is today? Not only do we have R&B legend Freddie Jackson, the soundtrack of our childhood, to all the lovemaking you've ever done, I know that. We also have Gunnar Lindbloom coming up later on. He is a former Detroit Mafia soldier, Suk. Spent time in prison. He's got stories like you wouldn't believe. He says he knows who killed Jimmy Hoffa. So we're gonna talk to him later on. But listen, Freddie Jackson's here. Everybody's lighting up. We'll let everybody get on. We're excited. You're excited. Hopefully, you'll be able to hold it together because I know you've been dying for Freddie.
Since we booked this, and we got to thank Sandra for our hookup for booking.
Yes, absolutely. Sandra Trim DaCosta from Bullion. Bringing Freddie to us today, and just a fantastic. Listen, we've had some big singers on this show. It doesn't get any bigger than Freddie Jackson, Suk,
and you know what? He's got the hardware to prove it behind him.
Forget it. You and I, we like to goof around, talk about our Emmys once in a while, but you talk about this guy's trophies and awards. Forget about it. So let's do it. Everybody's lighting it up. And here's a little bit of Freddie Jackson, and we'll bring him on right after this.
Coming to the stage is a bona fide music legend with 11 #1 hit records. Give it up for the one, the only, Mr. Freddie Jackson. Let's move now.
Freddie Jackson.
The icon, the living legend.
He has the best love music.
I mean, some of the best music you've ever heard.
Nothing that I'd rather do than spend every moment with you. I guess you should know I love you so. Has anybody told you today? You are. Sing that shit, y'all. Yo. And would you like for me to stop now? Yeah. Yo. It's the people's show.
Sing that shit, y'all.
Oh, Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, there he is, the living legend, Freddie Jackson. Freddie.
Hey, guys, two of my favorite for old time's sake. You guys,
Freddie, not really, too old. Not too
well,
old.
Listen, let's not get too old. I just turned 65, so that's the last time I'm going to say that. But
it's okay. You're amongst friends, Freddie. Don't worry. We're getting old too. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. So we're in this thing together.
You know
we're all together, and I'm so happy to see. It just reminds me of being in my New York City times, seeing you guys. Because that's where I first met you guys. So I'm out here in South Jersey now with the birds and the bees and the antelopes and the stuff like that. I got a little quiet. New York was wearing me thin, so I had to come and make some sense. But seeing you guys bring me right back home.
By the way, Freddie, 65 is young. We're just going to put that out there. It is young.
You better believe it. I say it every day I wake up. Listen. Now, I feel a little different, but I'm okay.
I got to tell you, Freddie, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Well, I've learned how to get some rest in the middle of all this, and with this COVID situation, I had a lot of time to rest, rest and eat, and rest and eat, and
We all did.
yeah, okay. I got so much COVID cake stomach going on around here underneath this jacket.
Freddie, listen, we got so much to talk about, and
Yeah.
I got a couple songs we'll pull up, and maybe I know you got a little echo work in there. Maybe you'll acapella with us a little bit.
Hey,
but
listen, I could do that.
listen, the first thing I wanted to bring up is the biggest thing that has ever happened in the life of Freddie Jackson, and that's the Golden Girls, baby. Look at you.
This is what friends are for.
Yeah, look at you, right?
Oh Lord, look at those cheeks.
Didn't you sing to Sophia the Disney theme song, right?
It's a small world after all.
Oh my God.
I mean, what an experience. Of course, a big fan of the show. And I had just won an American Music Award in California. And then I got a call the evening I got back to the hotel. And they said, well, they're asking that you appear on the Golden Girls. And I'm like, shut the door. Are you kidding? And so I got a chance to go into the rehearsals with them and see how they really get it on. And they were just lovely. What an experience for me.
Oh, that's so great, Freddie.
Freddie,
That was great.
I feel like we got to go way back to the 80s. 1985, I heard Rock Me Tonight, and I think it changed my life. In fact, I know it changed my life. And I know it changed your life.
It changed. I was good.
Catapulted you to superstardom. Were you ready for that when it happened like that?
I really was not. I went from being a word processor, taking the train from the Bronx downtown to my desk and typing letters every day.
Wow.
Okay, I had a 9 to 5 eating a knish for lunch, with mustard and onions in it. Let's talk about that's the only way to have it. But and borrowing money from one week to the next from people at your job. So, but it changed my entire fiber. I wasn't wearing suits like that to work, that's for sure. But it changed everything about me. I mean, like I went from McDonald's to Ruth Chris. I mean, everything just automatically, the fiber where I lived, everything just changed. But it did something. It helped to make a dream come true because I always wanted to be the Sam Cooke. I wanted to be the Marvin Gaye. I grew up 4 blocks away from the Apollo Theater when I was a kid. So I sat at the Apollo every Saturday for 99 cents. I used to sit in the Apollo and I used to sneak. Lord, look at those cheeks. They're killing me.
Look at that. So
and that, you know what? That's that shot that you just showed me. I was on American Bandstand. So that's how far back I go. That was American Bandstand. But it took me what's the song for to Silver Look? It took me from ghetto for perfume to whatever the line is. Take it from crayons to perfume.
Crayons to perfume.
From crayons to perfume. And I'm smelling good now, and I'm feeling happy about it.
Oh, it's so funny. Freddie, listen, Suki and I were talking about this before you came on. When people think of you and your songs, and even the song titles, right? Do Me Again, Rock Me Tonight, did you purposefully, just the sensual, slow jams that you came up with, was that like purposefully done where you were like, you know what, I'm going to be the guy who's associated with just lighting those candles, pulling out the wine, and just, being all about romance.
Turning off the light and the hot wax on you and all that stuff. Am I a sex addict or what's going on? What's going
Freddie,
on?
Are you a sex addict, Freddie?
Yeah, I know. I'm just a little guy. I was a little guy who just liked to have sex. But anyway, and I got it off on all the world.
You did, man. You did. Well, listen. Rock Me Tonight. I want to play a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and talk some more.
This was the song.
Hey girl, long time no see. Do you have a little time to spend with me? I wanna know what's been going on Talk to me, baby. Call me up. Your hair, perfume you wear brings back memories of you and me. You look so fine, you blow my mind all over again. So much has happened in my life.
Freddie, when
good,
you
Freddie.
sang that song, did you know that it was going to take you from that job in Manhattan and catapult you when you recorded it? Was everybody like, "Yo, we have money right here. We've got it."
You know, Suki, it was amazing. I had no idea. I was like, this is a good song.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sing it, you know. And I was in London at the time, and I was doing press and promotion for this. Freddie Jackson's coming out with a new record. And while I was there, the record was out in the States and doing very well. And I'm in London, and my manager calls me and says, I hope you're sitting down. And I'm like, well, what's going on? He says, congratulations. You have the #1 record in the world right
Wow.
nation right now. And my reaction was, oh, that's nice. He says, is that all you have to say? You have the #1 record. But I swear, I was so removed from #1 or whatever because I had sang on a lot of records as a background artist, you know, Harry Belafonte and Angela Bofill, Melba Moore.
Yeah, Melba.
Moore.
Melba was
Yeah.
on a couple of weeks ago with
Yeah,
us. She was on.
my Mel Baba.
Great.
I call her Mel Baba. I was telling my musical director on the way here how Melba used to say that my voice was like a break dancer because I used to do so many riffs and runs. So she nicknamed me Fredbo. And she used to say it's like an amusement ride when you're singing. It's just up and down and up and down. So I'm a little older now, so I'm not going up and down. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Look at how
boy,
smooth that cover looks. Come
Boy,
on
was I
now.
sexy back then.
Sexy.
You know, so I had no idea what Rock Me Tonight was gonna do, and then it stayed at #1. It stayed at #1 for 24 weeks.
24 weeks. Wow.
24 And then the really game changer was when they released the second single, You Are My Lady.
Yes.
And then You Are My Lady stayed #1 for 26 weeks in a row.
Fred, do you
So-
know how many times I look at Suki and I go, and you are my lady?
You're a smart man. You're a smart man. Suki deserves all that love.
Yeah.
So You Are My Lady gave you the second R&B chart topper. So you top Rock Me Tonight with You Are My Lady.
I sure did. Rock Me Tonight was 24 weeks at #1.
Wow,
And
unheard
then
of.
yeah, you know, people don't scream about it a lot. You know, I'm a little settled, you know, but Rock Me Tonight was 24 weeks, and then You Are My Lady stayed #1 for 26 weeks. That's when Luther Vandross called me and said, I've had enough of you.
And what did he come out with, Fred? What did he knock you off with?
No, Luther was doing something else, but he was like, who the hell is this guy? And he's like, I've had enough. I've had enough. I've had enough. I've had enough. Okay, never too much.
Never
but,
too much.
Never too much.
So, Freddie, what is, because we've heard, like, growing up, everybody's heard about Freddie versus Luther
Yeah.
versus Freddie. Now, I know, like, was there ever, like, competition? Like, or was it always good competition?
It was
You're two people
constructive.
who just embody love to me, like, like
Yeah.
full spirit.
Luther and I had the best time with is it Freddie or is it Luther? Is it Freddie? And and we used to meet each other and we used to play jokes on people. I remember one time at a party in Connecticut, Ashford and Simpson threw a big party. There's summer parties that they used to always throw.
Now, you all went to church together, right?
Luther and I went to same denomination, but we didn't go to church. But we were all Ashford and Simpson and I went to the same
Yes,
church
that's exactly
together.
what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
Val and I and Nick, we went to White Rock Baptist Church together. But we used to play tricks. He used to say, Freddie, let's, we know everybody's watching us to see how we're gonna react with each other. So meet me behind that tree over there. Let's start acting like we're mean at each other. And so we would start like, you know what, I heard what you said about me and I don't like it, and you need to watch your mouth. I mean, Luther, you really can't sing no way. The only reason why people pay attention to you is because of me. And the party would get quiet. And they were like, oh God, they hate each other. And so he said, meet me behind the other house. And we would laugh at the fact that we had garnered so much attention of negativity, but we always turned it into positive. Luther was my friend. Luther sold the record. Freddie Jackson sold the record. So we were really good competition for each other. I miss him dearly because I need to sell some more records now.
Freddie, listen, man, I have you on stage doing You Are My Lady. But I got you sitting right here. Can you give me like a minute a cappella? Little You Are My Lady.
Minute, Scott?
30 seconds, a minute. I don't want you to expend too much energy.
Oh no, I have a show tomorrow, and then I have another one in Atlanta. Myself and Shaka Khan are doing some dates together. So I'm gonna be with Shaka.
Let me rock you, Shaka Khan.
Yeah. So I'm like, but yeah. Especially a little special Suki, because I know this is one of her favorites. Anyway.
Go ahead, baby.
There's something that I wanna say, but words sometimes get in the way. I just wanna show my feelings for you. You are my lady. You're everything I need and more. You are my lady. You're that I'm living for. You are my lady.
Oh, Lord.
I can't.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Oh, Freddie, that's amazing, man.
And it's early in the afternoon. You guys
so
got me
cool.
hitting hot C's.
Well, all right. So here's the thing. So that song is one of those tunes, right? We've had people like Richard Marx, Rick Springfield, Melba was on. When you go out on stage, everybody sings with you. And here's a little bit of You Are My Lady with you on stage recently. Take a look.
There's no way that I can resist your precious kiss. Girl, you got me so hypnotized. If I do, somebody say yeah. You stay, 'cause all over eternity and
I love that.
Freddie, for me, like I feel like when you kind of transcend with the audience, right? The time that we all grew up, it was like a special time of, when men held women, or like it was just very passionate. Like I don't even know how to explain it to my children.
I got you.
Yeah, like
it's the compassion.
Dances.
People today is not as compassionate as it used to be. Music is not as compassionate.
True.
I come from the romance, and it's not romantic anymore. It's a quick fix, and it's I'm gonna quit you by a text. I don't love you I don't love you anymore by text.
Swipe right, swipe left, swipe right, swipe left.
Exactly. And those days are so missed, and I'm so happy when I perform and I see people, Suki and Scott, really take each other by the hands. And while I'm singing that song, they begin to reminisce when they heard it and what it means to them. I mean, when I walk through the airport and I get people that say, You know what? I'm a tasty love baby.
I was gonna say tasty love.
I love
One
it.
guy said to me, he said, whenever I used to hear my mother and my father, that song of my mother and my father's dream, I used to say, oh Lord, they're making another baby.
Freddie, you shared this wonderful story about. I mean, you honor your mother every day, but
Every
I
single
love
day.
this story of when you got your first paycheck for Rock Me Tonight. And
Yeah.
it is something very special because you had a very special nickname that you called your mother, and you went down to this really fancy store on Fifth Avenue
I sure
um,
did. I sure
here
did.
in New York City. Can you share that with our audience? Because I think it is just, as a mother myself, I think
Mhm.
it's just such a beautiful thing that you did.
Well, my mother, my heart, my soul, my first musical director, because when I used to sing in church at church as a kid, her eyes would direct me to go up and down. So my mother was my first critic, and I knew when I wasn't doing the right thing because she would be giving me the that's wrong. And my mother actually was a soloist in the church choir, and she gave birth to me. She went into labor while she was doing a church concert.
Wow.
And 12 or 13 hours later, she says, you should have been able to sing something after stopping me in the middle of my selection and causing all that havoc. And well, here comes Freddie Jackson. But my mother, each day that I live, when I wake up, I give her a kiss. I throw a kiss to the sky because she is my better angel.
Yeah.
And she watches over and protects me, even when through my rights and my wrongs, she still puts me in divine spiritual check. So I'm like, I got to do something good for my mother. So I moved mother from the projects and I moved her into condo. And
Nice.
she's like, I don't want all this. I'm good. I'm good in my neighborhood. Everybody in the church know who I is. I don't need to be moving into all that. So I was like, no, but I got something good. So I'm going to do something good for you. And each one of her birthdays, like her birthday just passed in July, I used to always give, or my birthday, I should say, I used to always give my mother lilies. And so it's kind of hard for me because every year I still pass out lilies to different people
Wow.
because I keep the tradition going. Because I used to say my birthday
Beautiful.
was my mother's birthday. So she's my heart and my soul. And without her, after there was a while after she passed, I felt like I didn't want to do this anymore because I used to love coming home off of the road and going to her house, and she would just cook for me and just hold me.
Aw.
When I came home from doing 35 shows in 3 weeks in Japan, I was just dead. So she's like, baby, just lay here. And I laid in her arms, and I ate and I ate and I ate and slept, and we sang together. My mother was a wonderful vocalist, and her
Oh, Freddie,
favorite
that's so
gospel song was a
beautiful.
song called What Is This? And when it gets too tough for me, that's the song I sing. What is this? And I feel so much better.
Freddie, you got 30 seconds of that in you? Love to hear it.
What is this? What is this? It's got me feeling so good now. Whatever it is, it won't let me hold my peace. Whatever it is, you got to let it go.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Yep.
Freddie, when you
Listen to my mom.
when you look at the music of today and the upcoming musicians and how they are getting social media famous, or they put out
Yeah.
a song and they get 10 million views on a YouTube song. You ever think to yourself, because you were back in that old school where
Oh, yeah.
you had to get the manager, you had to
We
get
didn't
the
have
publicity.
views.
If you weren't on TV or radio, you weren't on, right? Do you ever think,
Videos and stuff
right?
like that. That's right.
You ever think to yourself, boy, oh boy, if I had grown up in this age of social media,
Hmm.
the heights that you could have hit with your music?
Oh God, I would be killing it. Because it's kind. I call it a little. It's easier now. We really had to do the legwork. We had
Right.
to do the promotional tours. We had to rip and run radio stations. We were places where you can't even imagine. Today's social media, you can sit at home and sell your stuff, but we couldn't sit at home. We had to run
You
and
had to go.
really earn it.
Freddie,
But you know what? Uh,
who are you inspired by now?
I'm now. I like Bruno Mars a lot.
Ooh,
Oh,
me
okay.
too.
Yeah, that boy got it going on. You know what I like about him? He's keeping the R&B and the soul alive, and I just really dig him. And I know he, on his last album, he gave me thanks on track number 5 on his album, and I was like, what? So I'm grooving with Bruno because he's keeping that soul alive, and I'm working on a new album right now, and it's important for me to try to contribute to help to keep that R&B and soul alive because R&B is still alive. Everybody's kind of doing it; it's being done differently, but I think I need to rock them just a little bit more for old time's sake and give them just a
Yeah.
little bit of Freddie Jackson's Tasty Love one
Ah, I
more
love
time.
it. I love it. You know what, Freddie? It's funny. We were talking earlier, and I was telling Suki some of the names of the tours that you had. You know,
Mhm.
when you were going out, I'm like,
Do me
"Do
again.
me again." Tasty Love, Hey Lover. I'm like, Suk, I don't know. Would that be okay this day and age to do me again? But
I
I
don't
listen,
know.
man.
I
It's
don't know because it seems like other people could say these things. Whenever I
right.
kind of like try to get fresh and nasty, like, oh, why is Freddie Jackson talking like that? It's like I could
Like
get jiggy with it too. I remember Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, said to me, Aretha Franklin's favorite song of mine. She even hired me to sing at one of her birthday parties. But Aretha and I were friends. Whenever I used to go to Detroit, she didn't have a problem with frying us some chicken for you. And so she said, Freddie Jackson, that's my favorite song that you sing is that Tasty Love. I said, Aretha, what do you know about Tasty Love? The queen is tasty too, Freddie. She deserves to be tasty. So, it transcends, it goes where it needs to go or wants to go. But just as long as people take it and they apply it and to their heart and to their love, it gives me joy when I know that what I do, and I know these songs sound fresh. But listen, it's all right to be a little romantic here and there. We all just can't hip hop and jump and do all the rest of that stuff. I wish I could, but I don't do it anymore. But I love nothing. There's nothing like a sweet love song like Nat King Cole, Unforgettable. Those songs live on forever.
forever. Unbelievable.
Yes.
Freddie, you mentioned you were on tour in Atlanta, right? Did I hear
Yes.
that correctly?
Yes. Yes. This Saturday, I'm in Washington first. That's tomorrow. So I got my work cut out for me. So singing to you right now is kind of warming me up for the
Nice.
stage, for the audience, which is a good thing. And then Atlanta, I'm with Miss Shaka Khan. We've both done dates again. So I'm really excited about seeing Miss Khan. And it's like it's about 18,000 people. So I gotta have my game on, y'all. My love game has gotta be hot.
Yes, there is. Freddie,
Let me.
one question I always wonder, like, all these songs mean so much to you, different times of your life, different things that happen. When you get up on stage, what is that song that you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
this is me.
Mm,
This
that's
is me.
the song for me. Of course, You My Lady is so close for many, many reasons. But there's a song that I sing. Have you ever loved somebody? Can you learn to love somebody the way somebody loves you? Have you ever known that feeling? Ooh, that special feeling when somebody loves you. Those words are so true. Those words are so true. Have you ever loved somebody? Can you learn to love somebody the way that someone that you lay next to every night or that you can't stop texting or selling all day long? Do you really know that they love you the same way back? And when you
Oh,
think that is safe, I want you to know that I'm always here for you. It's
Oh my
that
God,
song.
Freddie.
I love it, Freddie. Freddie, listen,
Preach, Freddie.
Freddie, 1985, you're nominated for Best New Artist for a Grammy.
Mhm.
Who the
Yeah.
heck? I didn't want to go back and look, but who the heck beat you out that year?
That dang on Stevie Wonder.
Ah, that guy.
that guy.
Stevie
And you
Wonder.
know, you're Stevie Wonder. And so I remember winning the award, him winning the award.
Yeah.
And I would see him later, and we were going through the airport. I said, you know, Stevie, I still got a gripe pick with you. You took my Grammy Award. He says, oh, Freddie, you didn't see that one coming, did you? I said, Stevie, that's not nice.
That is
But
so.
yeah, it was Stevie Wonder, and then again it was Stevie Wonder again. So I said, forget about this. Just give me the American Music Award. I'll take that.
Oh my God, that's right. You won the American Music
I
Award, right, in
sure did,
'88.
and I was happy. And Little Richard gave me that award, and that, let me tell you, that was a shut up moment for me. It really was. I said, because he kept teasing, you know, as opposed to opening up the envelope, you know, he went into banter. I'm gonna read this, but y'all ain't never gave me nothing. What about me? What about? And I'm like, man, would you announce who won this award? And so when he said my name, Freddie Jackson, come on up here and shut up. You know, I'm like, that's authentic Little Richard. You know,
that is so funny, Freddie. I didn't realize until I did just before that you redid Me and Mrs. Jones, Billy Paul, right?
Billy Paul.
And-
I sang that song in a high school talent show.
Oh, you did it? You covered it
I
in high
sure
school?
did. So I said after I became the Freddie Jackson, I said, well, let me go back to my old roots. And so I re-recorded it, and Billy Paul and I were doing a cruise together. And I said, well, Billy, I recorded your song. He says, I don't care. That's more money for me.
More money for me. More money for him.
He said for me. He says that's more money for me and Mrs. Jones.
I love it. Hey, listen, before you go, would you give us a little bit of that one? A little bit of me and
Mrs. Jones. We've got a thing going on. Me and Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones. We got.
Freddie, it's great. You ever get tired of singing those songs, or you just love them, man? You just never get tired of it.
Every now and then I'm like, oh God, do I have to sing today? How much am I getting paid for? Oh yeah, I'm singing today. You know, I've been blessed to really enjoy this thing that I do. I mean, without this singing, without this road, without the love of my fans, I'm telling you, I would really be empty. I mean, when COVID hit, for the first 3 months, I was like, I can deal with this. This is 3 months of this will be gone. And then 4, 5, 6, I'm like, this is not fun anymore. I need an audience. I need to sing. And my neighbors next door is banging on the wall. Shut the hell up, Freddie Jackson in there. Go out on the road. Get out of here. So they were getting free concerts. But without it, I'm really empty.
I love it. Freddie, you could come sing with us anytime, my friend. Anytime.
Well, thank you so much. Bud. I will sing, and I'm so happy. This has made me happy today.
Freddie, thank you, man. You made us happy. I know.
It really is an honor. I mean, honestly, I never thought my 11 to 12-year-old girl, like 13-year-old girl growing up, just would be like, you know, the summers of 1985 where I used to play it all, 85, 88. I mean, like,
don't tell it all, Suki. Don't tell it all.
You were everything, Freddie. You were.
Everything you need and more.
Freddie, if I could tell you every time I was in the back seat of a car listening to that song,
hey, watch yourself, Scott. Watch.
Freddie, listen, man, we love you. It's an honor to have you on. Good luck with Shaka Khan, and like I said, man, anytime you just want to come on and BS a little bit, we got the audience for you.
I can do that with you.
Thank you, my man. You're the best, Freddie.
Okay, love the both of you. God bless you.
We love you, pal.
Love you back.
Take care, my man.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Amazing. Freddie Jackson, the amazing
Suki,
that
was unbelievable.
Artist.
You just had Freddie Jackson singing You Are My Lady to you.
Forget not you were my. He did Rock Me Tonight. He did Me and Mrs. Jones. He did. I mean, come on. He did like he was amazing.
Yeah. By the way, the guy looks like he hasn't aged in a bit, right? He looks fantastic.
That's what I said. I said, Freddie, you look really, really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievable. Well, listen, we continue on. Like I said, we have a very eclectic show. We go from R&B legend Freddie Jackson to a guy who is just blowing up. No pun intended, by the way. Former Detroit Mafia soldier, Gunnar Lindbloom, Sook. He's coming up. Guy went to prison, did his time, decided to start writing in prison. He's got books out now. He's got shows. He's all over the place, and he's really he's an amazing, very, very interesting individual. I'm going to give you a little bit of Gunnar Lindbloom right here, and then we're going to bring him in on the other side. Take a look.
I'm to the side of a garage, bleeding out. I see blood dumping out of my stomach, pouring out. I ran right out of my shoes. I don't even remember that. This is one of the worst ghettos in Detroit, or even the world. And all I could think about, man, I don't want my girl to get the phone call that my body was found dead, bleeding out in the hood. So I said, I'm going to live today. My name is Gunnar Allen Lindbloom. At age 14, I was indoctrinated in a life of crime, organized crime, through my uncle and some members of my family.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable.
Nobody knew that. I didn't share with anyone because I was told never share anything outside of the family.
For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste.
Then we started selling drugs. And I got involved in my own drugs and bad habits and gambling. Eventually, I started doing armed robberies. I started doing bank robberies. At the very end, before I went to prison, I didn't care anymore. I wasn't getting signed off on, meaning I was a maverick. Nobody was giving me permission to do nothing. I was keeping all the money. So the family was like, you know what? We can't help it. 17 capital charges, all of them carried life, and in the end, I couldn't beat any of them, so I took a plea agreement, and that put me away for 13 to 50 years. And so, at that point, the game was over.
The game is over.
Game was over. Gunnar, how are you, my
ladies
man?
and gentlemen?
How you doing? Geez, I didn't know I was following up behind Freddie Jackson.
Come on now, Freddie Jackson.
How do I beat that? Mrs. Jones, are you kidding me?
Gunnar, we're going to need you to sing a little bit before we get started, bro.
Yeah, you don't want that. Trust me. It's ugly.
How are you, my man? Good to see you, bud.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Listen.
I'm good. Just grinding all day, every day. Just trying to do my best to be my best me and trying to get it in. Trying to get my books out there, a couple television shows in the works, and I got a YouTube show and a YouTube channel and a radio show.
Got it all going on. Well, listen, let's start with, you were in this Detroit Mafia. You were this enforcer, and from what you read, you were like at the highest levels, and things kind of went south for you. You ended up in prison, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's funny. I got a pretty interesting story, kind of a Henry Hill type of figure, if you will, in regards to I'm half Sicilian. So my mother was Grace Carmela Tocco. So her uncle was the boss of Detroit mob, or my grandfather's first cousin, who was very close to him. They're only 10 years apart in age. My grandpa's a little bit older, kind of his unofficial consigliere. There he is right there on the top left. And they were very close. And anyways, I grew up, my parents divorced when I was 4. So I ended up living with my grandparents in a very, kind of cloistered environment where the whole entire neighborhood was like mobbed up. The whole neighborhood was mob everything for about a 5-block radius, the whole mafia. And there might have been 30 to 50 guys in there, most of them made guys. And anyways, I grew up, they all had kids and sons and nephews, and I grew up around them and growing up, I was just around them as far back as I can remember. They give you a $5 bill when you're a little kid, then 10, then 20, and then they're like, get a joke. And then my uncle Nicky and Uncle Tony taught me to play poker when I was like 8, and taught me how to house the games, not ever play the game, but house the games, how you cut the pot, and that's how you always win.
Yeah.
And just around these bad guys, but in my mind, they weren't bad guys. They were just, they were uncles. They were just my uncles. And of course, I was a bad kid to boot on top of it all. I was in a lot. My mother was mentally ill. My father was an alcoholic, abusive alcoholic. And so I was just dysfunctional kid. I was a really smart kid. I real high IQ. They couldn't figure out how to handle me in school. I was very violent. I was getting on my second day of kindergarten. I got in a fight for clobbering a bully with a 2x4. I mean, that's the kind of kid I was. And it was kindergarten, by the way.
Yeah. Wow.
So it might have been first grade. Sorry, it was first grade. I did kindergarten with my parents. But anyways,
I'm sure the teacher was like, "What the F are
oh
we
yeah,
gonna do right now?"
oh no, they were, and they didn't know how to handle it because not only that, but they knew who my family was, so they had to approach that very cautiously, you know. And later on, when I was 15, I got expelled indefinitely from high school. Now, by this time, I've already had several felonies, a couple of felonious assaults, possession of stolen property, destruction of properties, and I'm only 15 now. Now, my grandfather, who was a very prominent figure in the Detroit area, in and outside of the organized crime, he basically went to the school board director, sat down with them and me and my mother, and basically said, well, first thing he says when he walks in, he says, "Do you know who I am?" And they all said, "Yeah, Mrs. Toko, we know who you are." He says, "Well, I want my grandson to stay in school and graduate." And they said, "Well, we don't want him." And I'm like, these guys got balls. They got a freaking line. They're like, no matter what my grandpa said, he's like, "We don't care." He doesn't. He's been suspended 10 different times. He's always fighting. He comes to school smelling like pot. He hangs around a bunch of bad kids. He's like, "We don't want him." And so they expelled me. And then naturally, of course, when you're not in school with the normal kids, who's left? Bunch of freaking drug addicts and scumbags and dropouts, and those became my friends and my world, my crew. So I took up selling drugs to them, and then as I got older, I had an uncle, my mother's brother, Pete Toko, he was only 12 years older than me, so kind of like an older brother. He starts bringing me under his wing and taking me around the Eastern Market, which is Detroit's Little Italy, and introducing me to some of my other cousins and uncles and all these young wise guys from his generation. And he starts teaching me the world of Cosa Nostra and how it works and who's who and whatever. And I started selling drugs for him, just pot. Then I got involved in selling a big steroid ring, a big mafia steroid ring, and I got busted for that. And when I got out of jail for that after 6 months, I went and lived with my by the way, my grandpa bribed the judge so I wouldn't go to prison. He gave the judge $10,000 so I didn't have to go to prison, which is, that's a crazy story in itself. And then I got out and moved in with my grandparents, which put me literally in ground zero of the mafia. And then, of course, my grandmother wanted me to college and stuff, but my grandpa knew better. And basically, he started taking me around these higher level mob guys, like the highest level street boss, underboss, the boss, capo regimes. All of them were Goombadis from childhood. They're the ones that, that's Tony Jack. One of the ones I was, because his daughter married my cousin, and he was Goombadis with my grandfather, and that was a very, very bad man right there. God bless his soul. That's him and his brother and his wives. But he was the number one suspect in the Jimmy Hoffa disappearance.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You said I know I saw you being interviewed, and you were like, "I know who killed Hoffa." Is that true? Is this the guy?
Nobody knows, but all I said in that interview was, listen, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put it together. Tony Giacalone was arguably one of the most deadly gangsters in American history. They believe he was responsible for up to 60 bodies, 60 murders.
Wow.
He was the guy going to meet Jimmy Hoffa the day Hoffa disappeared. Now, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure out what happened. One of the most deadly gangsters in American history goes to meet the guy and he vanishes. Do the math. Now, I can't say exactly for sure what happened. I have a theory. I have friends that are mine are experts in that realm of investigation, and we kind of have a similar theory. Like I said, I was 2-3 years old at the time, but I did hear bits and pieces of things coming down the pike when I got older. Did I know if they were joking or being serious? I don't know, but they would never tell anybody. The way the Detroit Mafia works, which makes it very different than all the other families, it's very, very secretive, and they compartmentalize each crew. And every crew has, their own boss or capo or whatever, and they don't share information with the next crew or the next family. And when they killed Hoffa, there was probably 4 or 5 people who were involved and knew, and each one of them got issued a story. You're going to say, this is what happened to him. You're going to tell New York, that's what happened to him. You're going to tell Chicago, this is what happened to him. You're going to tell that crew what's happened to him, and nobody ever repeats it, because if anybody tells, we'll kill your whole family. And that'll be that. And you're dealing with guys that have no problem wiping you out and your kids. So nobody told nothing. And here we are, 45 years later, still debating where he is. But around that time, when I was living with my grandparents, Tony Jack started coming around pretty often. It wasn't that long after he got out of prison from doing 7 years. and he asked me to do a couple favors for him, and I ended up beating up a guy real bad for him who had abused a woman who I believe was his girlfriend. And he called me and said, "Could you go handle this?" Which I did. I went over there and just pulverized this guy. I had this big brass ring on my knuckle, like brass knuckle gold ring on, and smashed the guy's face. And he had slapped around his girlfriend, or I guess the guy was the ex-husband of this friend of Tony's. And he called me and said, "This is what happened. He slapped her around that night. Will you go handle it?" I said, "I'm on it, Tony. Give me the address." So I went over there with one of my paisans, and I just pulverized this guy, right? And so the girl tells Tony, "I don't know who that guy was you sent, but he was a serious business. He came straight in here and just demolished my ex and just splattered him and threw him out." And so now Tony's like, "Hey, I got this for you. You want to, work security at a poker game, and want to work security at a nightclub, work security at a casino night." And then once in a while, when somebody needed a tune-up, is what he'd say. He'd say, "This guy's being disrespectful. He's not paying his mark or his VIG on time. Send him a message. Tell him I sent you." So I go and I try to be cool, but "Listen, you got to pay, man." And if they got cocky in any way, it's just I'd start smashing them. And that got around the city, got around through that underworld, or in that world of that realm. And it got to where suddenly now I'm 19, 20, 21 years old. All these high-level mob guys, when I'd see them, they'd ask me stories that they'd heard. Like, "Hey, what happened with that kid Tony the other day? I heard, what you do to him?" And I'm like, and I tell them. And then I'd start telling the stories in graphic detail. I got smashing his head in a bank. And they get all freaking worked up. And they're laughing. And they're going, "That reminds me of the time I did it this one time back in 68. There's this one kid that I had to do him. And I got him." And they're all jumping around, telling war stories. And yeah, that's their original Godfather. So his brother was my grandfather's, or his brother's my great-grandfather.
Right.
In fact, they really weren't, though. They were raised as brothers. That's Billy Jack. But they were actually first cousins. They didn't even know they weren't brothers till they were like 25. And then that's a whole nother story that I won't get into. But anyways, Tony now starts using me, and all these other guys around the way start seeing opportunities, because there wasn't a lot of, like, you would think, being Detroit, and you would think it being the mafia. This is what makes it very different from other, like, families, like New York families and stuff. It's not out there. It's not like everybody knows, but nobody knows. Like, everybody knows the names: Giacalone, Tocco, Zarelli, somebody's name, but you don't talk about it because people are scared. They don't bring it up. If you even bring up, yeah, that's the only one that ever cooperated right there. That's the only one informant in history who's a distant cousin of mine. I didn't know the guy, but people don't say, they don't talk about it. And when you bring up the mafia or this, they're just like, "Well, I don't want to talk about that." And that's just how it is. And so you have this, a family that's very secretive and cloistered, but they were also very corporate, if you will, very white collar. All the hierarchies of the mob are involved in these, like, municipal contracts, city corruption, city officials. They actually use the unions to help people get voted into positions of power, and then they allocate big contracts to mob-owned front companies for construction and bridge repair, food, sanitation, garbage disposal, on and on and on. And they're getting these huge, like, multi-million, $25, $30 million a year contracts for, like, sanitation and all this stuff. And it's all mob-owned. And then it trickles down. There's lower-level guys that are kind of involved in the rackets, like gambling and prostitution and call girls and drugs and everything else, imagine, robbery, hijacking. And that's where I fell in. But the higher level guys didn't have access to a lot of young muscle, which is surprising. So there just wasn't a lot of guys willing to go get dirty, meaning, go hurt somebody or bloody a guy up or send a message. So there was a small handful of guys. And Tony, being Tony Jack, he was the guy who controlled that part of that world. He was the guy who controlled the muscle. If you needed muscle, you said, "Hey, Tony, I got this problem. I got this freaking bookie. He's not paying his guys on time. I'm getting complaints that people aren't paying up. He won't answer my calls, or he's giving me a hard time." And Tony would call me and say, "Listen, go, tell this bookie he's got to pay his marks, man. Otherwise, he's going to have a problem." And I was really cool about it until they disrespect Tony or me, and then I get violent. But I didn't have to get violent that often. It wasn't even like, I'd just show up and they knew. I said, "I'm here for Tony." And they'd be like, they knew they were in trouble. At that moment, they just knew. And they would go, like, pawn their car. They would go, ask their great aunt to cash in her 401k and whatever. They'd go right to him. I'd be with him. He's like, listen, Aunt Betty, I'm in trouble. These guys are real bad people. I was gambling. I got in debt. They're going to kill me if I don't pay them $20,000 today. And the aunt would be like, "What are you going to do?" So she'd go get her savings and hand it over. But, I'm not proud of any of that. I'm just trying to, kind of illustrate the world that I was involved in. And then it just got worse and worse and deeper over the years. And again, I was like one of these few guys that could be like strike terror in. If I showed up, it was just bad. It was bad. Everybody got. Plus, I like to fight. I'm not gonna lie. When I was young, I hated bullies. I hated the bullies. The guys that the guys that looked like me but weren't tough. The guys who were all on steroids, and they do a bunch of steroids, and then they start going to the nightclubs, and they're standing in the clubs all puffed up, walking around, acting tough. And I know they're not tough because I saw them 9 months ago. They were just freaking 180-pound dudes sitting there sipping a drink, trying to max some girls. Now they're in the club like, I'm a tough guy. I'm like, this guy ain't tough. So I would check them. I'd walk over to them and bump into them, and I'd give them a chance. If they say, excuse me, sorry, Big Al, or sorry, excuse me, Al, or excuse me, Big Fella, whatever, I say, it's my bad. Let me buy you a drink. My bad. But if they're like, man, what's your problem, man? I just knock them out. Bang, right in front of everyone. Just knock them out. They're boys, everybody. I'm like, that's what's up. You ain't no tough guy, man. You better think twice before you get tough. When you want to pretend you're tough, you're not, man. Go recognize, get the frick out of here. Bouncers always throw them out, not me. They peel them off the ground and throw them out. And so I had a reputation for that. And then that happened like literally like 100 times on the east side of Detroit since in my age from like 19 to 21 or 25. So I had this like reputation that preceded me, and everybody knew I was that guy that was breaking jaws and knocking guys out in these nightclubs and checking people. And I had pulled pistols on guys in nightclubs, and like, guys who owed money or needed a message sent, I'd freaking beat the shit out of them, pull a pistol out right in front of 500 people, put a pistol in their mouth, said, I'll kill you next time. And everybody's like, I don't see nothing. And I'm not looking at nothing. And nobody wanted no problems. So that's why these older guys, these old mob bosses were like, yo, I can use this guy, Gunner. But on the other hand, they really manipulated and took advantage of me too. And then one of the biggest issues was I was what's called a defetto. I'm half-breed. I'm a half Sicilian. So my Uncle Pete, who kind of trained me in that world, said, you can't never be a made guy. You can't never come up as a, in the family higher than like, street soldier, just muscle. But I kind of was like offended by it. I'm like, well, geez, I'm born in this family like anyone else. I'm half Sicilian. I'm half Toco. I'm in this. Everybody uses me like I'm a, something, but I can't come any, which is bullshit. Oh, excuse me. But they go. But anyways, I had no choice, and I kind of got over that pretty quickly. And I was just like, it is what it is. No big deal. I'm just be the best what I can be at what I'm doing, earn a living. I was a lazy hustler. I had no ambition to be anything more than have a pocket. If I had 30 or 40 grand in my pocket, I was happy because that's enough to pay for a lawyer and bond money. If I get arrested, at which point I could go to the beach. I could go to the gym. I could maybe do a little shopping or traveling. If I wanted to go shopping for some new clothes, I go to New York, drop a couple $1,000, come home. That's all I cared about. I had no drive or ambition or long-term goals of any kind. It was just like, that's existing in the moment because I know I'm going to be dead or I'm going to be in prison any day. So I just kind of lived for the moment. And eventually, I dabbled in drugs. That's the problem. I broke my ankle and I started using pain pills, which I liked because they made me feel like Superman. And now I'm like dabbling in drugs and really out there now because now I'm just, and towards the end, I went on a crime spree and was a absolute just lunatic. And even the family, even the old men, everybody kind of were like walked away from me. Like, you're out of control. I was allegedly involved I wasn't involved in the murders, but I was with a guy who committed a couple murders just 40 minutes later after I was with them. And so they tried, and everyone in the family is like, yo, you were with freaking Johnny Fats freaking 40 minutes before he blew 2 guys away. You didn't know? I'm like, nah, I didn't know nothing. And the feds tried to put me in a room and say I was going to do life in prison and yada. I was like, man, I didn't know nothing, man. I had lunch with the guy. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know he was going to walk away and go rob 2 dope dealers and blow them away. And they're like, sure you didn't, buddy. But I'm like, yeah, well, you got something to prove that I had knowledge of it. By all means, present it. Until that, you got to, let me go. You got no evidence. Where's my lawyer? So anyways, at the end, I was arrested for, I had been under investigation my whole life. And I had been on probation and in and out of jail my whole life, but I was always able to duck convictions, work way around convictions, buy my way out of convictions. A couple times a judge got bought, and it wasn't even major cases, but $10,000 can go a long way, with a judge if it's just a pretty minor case. And so, anyways, I ducked, dodged, and weaved my way through my 20s, and then at age 29, when I was just really out there. Now here's the thing, I had just bought my second house, had like 3 cars. A jet boat, jet ski, 4-wheelers, snowmobiles, ninja, motorcycle. I had all these toys, and I'm trying to maintain this lifestyle. I had a fiance. I was a bodybuilder, big muscle-bound guy, bodybuilder. Nobody knew I was using drugs at all, not even my fiance. 13 years I've been with her. And I had all this freaking, that's my wife now, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, that was not, I'm talking about my ex, but,
sorry.
I'll get to her in a second. That's important. But anyways, so I had this lifestyle to maintain, trying to maintain this lifestyle, and I just couldn't keep up. I had a $2,000 a week habit, and plus on top of that, I was gambling where I shouldn't have because I was stupid. I waited till I was like 28 and then, let's try this blackjack stuff. Wow, I won 14 grand. That was easy. And the next thing I know, for the next 18 months, I'm chasing that high, losing though all the month, couple hundred grand. So anyways, and then I got locked up, and I was just like, there's that epiphany, that moment in life where I was in the hole. I got sentenced to 13 to 50 years for extortion, bank robbery, armed robbery, kidnapping. Actually, I didn't get convicted of kidnapping. They dropped that to an extortion because I basically threatened somebody to rob a bank that they worked at. And they said I made them move without their consent. And they call it. I was like, how did I call it? I wasn't even there. It can't be kidnapping. I'm not even in presence. And they're like, yeah, so it's an extortion. And they gave me 13 years for that. But anyways, I end up in prison. I end up in the hole for 17 months. That's a whole nother story. I got in a fight in the jail. While I was in the hole for 90 days, I got into it with the corrections officers, or the deputies, they called it, in jail, and got in a big beef with them. They tasered me and maced me. And so now I'm in there indefinitely. So I end up in there for 17 months fighting my case. I'm in the hole for 17 months in solitary confinement. So all I'm doing is reading. And strange thing, I was a big reader before I went to prison. Like, I would always be in the bookstore buying used books and reading, and these wise guys would see me reading a book. I'd always have it with me, and I go to meetings and stuff, and I'd walk in with a book. Like, you got a book? Is that a book? What are you doing with a book? I like to read. What do you want me to do? I'd be reading while I'm driving, like looking up. They just thought it was funny. And so in prison or in jail, now I'm reading all these books, and I'm thinking to myself, these books are not that great. Like, so many books I've read by like John Grisham and Sidney Sheldon, even Clancy and Ludlum, and not on and on, some of my favorites. Like, they're not that great. They're good. Some of them are great, but most of them are average at best. I'm like, dude, I can do better. I know I can do better. So I'd sit there on my bunk and I'd stare at the ceiling for months and like fabricate this like very complex, plot-driven web of story with characters. It's all this strange montage in my mind, but I couldn't write them. Yeah, that's my book now, volume 1 of my book, To Be a King. And so what I would do is I would write these stories in my mind, and then as I'd write them, I kind of file them away and start another story. And maybe I read for a couple of weeks in that genre, because I'm a genre jumper. I don't just write mafia novels. I took 6 novels before I even jumped into the mafia thing. So I already written 6 before I even decided to write the mafia one. So that's how important it was to me. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying? And so anyways, when I got sentenced to 13, 50 years, they sent me to prison. And first thing I did was buy some pens and paper and sat down in my cell and I started writing. And I literally did not stop for 13 years. I never looked back. I wrote, and then I wrote a book and I handed it to the guys in prison, and they, you don't know what they're going to think. And they come back, and this is the response they'd have. I said, hey man, I see you reading a book all the time. You like to read. Would you like to read my book? Well, what's it about? Now, my first book was about 2 high school football players. One ends up in prison, another one in the NFL. Main character's name is Chance. So the name of the Second Chance is the name of the book. So I handed them the manuscript. They come back 3 days later and they're like, oh my God, dude, this is the best book I've ever read. I'm like, yeah, you think so? And then I start passing it to others. These are big readers, guys who've been down 20, 25 years. That's all they do is read 3-4 books a week. So you're talking guys who read thousands of books coming back and go, this is the best book I ever read. And I'd say, well, here, try this one. Maybe you like this one that I've finished. And they'd read it and go, dude, I think this one's better than the other one. So now you've got guys saying the 2 best books you've ever read in your life are written by me. And they're like, dude, I think so. So now hundreds of guys are reading my books and they're all saying the same thing. Everybody's saying the same thing, like blown away. Some years go by and my cousin starts a Facebook page for me. And he says on the Facebook page, because it's 2008, I don't even know what Facebook is. I'm in prison. I've been in prison for 5-6 years. He says, my cousin is in prison. He's an author. He's a Christian, yada, yada, yada. And that's it. So a girl who went to my high school, who I never knew, I don't recall meeting ever. She was kind of a nerdy chick. She saw the Facebook suggested and clicked on it. Saw I was in prison. She said, I wasn't really surprised by that because I heard about your family and you're just a drug dealer and a fighter and tough guy, whatever. She says, but I see you're writing books, and I also see that you're a Christian. She's like, I'm a new Christian. I was raised Muslim, but I converted to Christianity, and I kind of left my family. And She said, maybe we can, do a Bible study but I work for a publisher. I would love to read your book and maybe I can help you if it's any good. So I said, great. So I had my friend turn this book, To Be a King, into a PDF file and send it to her. 1,100 page manuscript. Wow. 1,100. So this was both volumes, 1 and 2 together. Originally was one story. It is still one story, but it's just 2 volumes. It's too long. Both volumes over 500 pages. So he sends it to her. She blows through it on her phone over 3 days. It's like, what the frick? Can't stop reading. So she sends me a prison email called the JPay, and she says, I just finished your book. She's like, you are like the unicorn of publishing. I cannot believe you wrote this book. I'm astonished that you wrote this. I school dropout, kind of loser from the neighborhood. And she's like, I read thousands of books. I had a literary scholarship. And when I was in high school, I worked at the bookstore in high school. And she's like, I started reading when I was very young. At 5 years old, I read the Little House on the Prairie series. I'm a big reader. I'm telling you, your book is in my top 3 best books I've ever read. And she later recanted and told me the truth. She's like, your book was the best book I ever read. I just didn't want to tell you that and blow up your head because I just met you. You think I'm lying. And anyway, she said, I would like to maybe help you publish this book and help you work on this. So she started writing me and I started writing her back. No romantic intentions. I had no, I was an open book, no pun intended. And I basically said, I never tried to be a homewrecker or nothing like that. I never flirted with her or nothing, but we had so much in common. Each letter seemed to like kind of bond us closer and closer and closer. And over like the next 9 months, as they say, we fell in love. I mean, basically we fell in love through love letters, through like 9 months of love letters. Yes, that's my wife's there. And so at which point she says, I'm going to leave my current, partner and wait for you. Where would you like to live? And I said, well, I want to get away from the city. I want to go live way up north, out in the woods where I can go fishing and camping and 4-wheeling and enjoy life and enjoy the world that I've been locked away from all these years. So she left her family, her friends, and everything. She worked from home for a publisher at the time. She still does. And she started a life for me and waited 6 years out in the woods by herself for me to come home. So, wow. Yeah, so I waited. So after the 6 years go by, and we're just writing. We still wrote every week, like probably 75 pages of letters every week for the entire print. I actually put a novel on hold for a year just to write her, and then I picked up my next novel. But at the end, it was the next day I got out. My boys picked me up and took me to breakfast, and then she was preparing a big meal feast for me, and they drove me home, which was 5 hours from the prison, and they, I saw my wife for the first time as a free man. And the next day we got up and I got married and I got baptized in Lake Huron. It was all within like an hour. Beautiful. And that's it. We started our life together. That was 5 years ago. And so now we've been together like over 11 years. And so I kind of had fun for the first like 8 or 9 months, but I did publish my books. I did a lot of editing, proofing, and polishing. And then I published my books, To Be a King. I decided to use the 2 Mafia novels first, thinking that if I use my background and my history, I could leverage my future. It's kind of like saying, hey, if I publish the Mafia novels, I can use my past as a way to help the marketing. And it worked. And the books did really well. And they shot right up to the top of their genre and did really well. And people are comparing them to the next Godfather, or saying they're the next Godfather, and often comparing them. Although the stories are not similar in any way, other than the fact they're very old. It's a very old school, romantic, big mafia story. Other than that, there's nothing similar in the story to The Godfather, but it constantly gets compared to The Godfather.
Yeah. Gunnar, listen, we got about 5 minutes left. Tell me real quick about the Hour thing. You got the site with the apparel, really cool stuff like the shirt you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
Tell me about that real quick.
So Our Thing Apparel, when I was marketing my book, I got a hoodie made with the cover of this book on the hoodie, right? And, there's all these Mafia fan groups all over Facebook and Instagram and whatever. So I published some pictures of myself wearing this hoodie, but on the back, I had put Detroit Our Thing. So just like, because it's a Detroit Mafia story, so I put Detroit Our Thing. Yeah, that's one of our leather coats. That doesn't have Detroit because you don't know what city you're from. So people started messaging me and they're like, yo, I'm from New Jersey, but I love that design. Can I get, like, instead of Detroit, can I get New Jersey? And I said, yeah. So that's how they are. Something like that. There's hoodies and jackets and everything. So I asked the printer, can you make it New Jersey or Philly or Miami or Chicago or whatever? And he's like, yeah, we do any city they want. I said, okay. So we launched this website and this apparel line, and we have 30 designs, leather coats, jackets, hats, hoodies, everything. And so it's your city. It's with your city on the front and the back, like the embroidered stuff, like tracksuits. We have really cool tracksuits. They're like old school throwback.
Yeah, love it.
Your name, like Wrecking Crew right here, and then say Art Thing Detroit on the other side. And anyways, they're all custom, and so that was honestly that apparel line kind of ended up being my largest form of income. It kind of blew up, made me a bunch of money. And I got investors and people really enjoy the brand. It's kind of this edgy urban vibe. It's athletic gear. It's cool. It's not, I think that the term "our thing" is an English version of Cosa Nostra. Yes.
Yeah.
So when people hear the word the Cosa Nostra, it means mafia. In English, it means our thing.
Our thing.
That's kind of where you get that whole saying "our thing," Cosa Nostra.
I love it.
It's something that's just. The other thing is I think people resonate with is if you're from Chicago or New York or whatever, and you see somebody walking down the street and you're from New York, and you see somebody it says New York, our thing with our logo, you're like, oh, hell yeah, New York's our thing. It's our thing. It's New York. Don't matter what city you're from, you're always going to take pride in where you're from. And so you always want to rep it. You know what I'm saying? Which this brand makes it very personal. You can kind of take hold of your own.
Connor, listen, man, the story is amazing. I can listen to you talk all day. We might have to have you back for the second half.
Series.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got to put something together for Netflix. But listen, man, come back anytime. Just what's the address for the apparel? What can people?
It's ourthingapparel.com, OUR-thingapparel.com.
Okay.
My website is gunnerdetroit.com, has links to everything I do there. My YouTube channel is Gunner Detroit. I have a show called My Thing Tales of Reformed Gangster where I share all these crazy ass my gangster stories from the streets. I have ex-gangsters on, I have celebrities on. And it's an interesting show, so check it out, Gunner Detroit. And then I'm working on something for like a Netflix series and
Nice.
a couple different things kind of inspired by my life. So let's hope.
It reads like one, brother. It reads like one. Listen, man, continued success, and we'll touch base definitely soon enough.
You.
Thanks. It was nice meeting you, Suki.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for your story. Wow.
And thank you for giving me a personal up-toast thing with Freddie Jackson, man.
You sure you don't want to sing? You don't want to sing it before you leave?
No, please no.
Gunner, thank you, my man.
Yep,
Bye,
have a good one.
Good luck to you.
Take care, bud.
You're able to, be an example now. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. That's the goal.
Wow, Sook, what a story.
I didn't want to interrupt him. I was scared. No, I'm just kidding. But the other thing was just inspirational, aspirational. I mean, he was a victim of circumstances and he was able to turn it all around. I mean, he was, like he said, it was what he knew. It was how, when a child sometimes falls victim to whatever is around them, and that's what we need to remember.
Yeah, growing up
you
in that neighborhood.
You don't have to remain a victim for the rest of your life. You do have the control to change your trajectory, and that's what we like to think we can do too.
Yeah. Listen, Sook, amazing shows this week. Bill
man.
Engvall, the Sklar brothers, Freddie Jackson, Gunner. A great show, and we'll be back next week. I love you, babe. I'll talk to you later.
Love you, babe. Bye.